Attending a class yesterday, that part of it, okay. Okay, I'm here. I'm kind of surprised. If there's any messages from this group. Here. Oh, good morning, everybody. I need to keep an eye on the time. It's only 7:59. Okay, give me just a second. If you've got out laptops, we need to get access to the e-textbook, please. That will get us going. Well, we'll give you a second to get that done. I'll have a pencil for the wall. kinds of things going on. Got the class open twice now. And once again, my SPC students are not here. We'll see. Okay. What I was going to show you very first right now is I was going to give you, let you see the weekly, week 10 in the course content. Just to remind you that you have a quiz tomorrow morning. It opens up tomorrow morning. It's best if you take it in class and get it out of the way. Because my impression has been if you don't take it during class, you forget to take it, which is not good. But you're going to see down here at the bottom will be Chapter 16, the quiz over the student argument essays, and it will open up at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. But you do need to have read, let's see if I can make it any bigger. You do need to have read the two student essays, which are Teenagers and Jobs, and Once Over Lightly on the local TV news. The questions are going to be about those two stories specifically. So if you try to attempt to take the test and work back and forth between the book and the questions, you may not have enough time because you only get 60 minutes to take these quizzes. Once you start it, you can't stop and go back in. You know, you got to get it done in those 60 minutes. So when you're in the textbook, I just punch on whichever one's up first. And that's where we're going to be today, because we're going to look at the professional, the model essay to consider. But, and this actually is it. If you go to page 370, it says 371 on the test, but the readings actually begin at the bottom of 370. Be sure and scroll down. Remember, don't hit those arrows to go left or right. That takes you to the next chapter or the previous chapter. You've got to scroll. To get individual pages within a chapter, you have to scroll down. So the first one is Teenagers and Jobs. Then you've got the other one about Once Over Lightly, local news, local TV news, excuse me. And right after that, you have a series of questions. Those are not the questions that are being asked on the quiz. But you can go with the notion that there will be questions about unity. The focus in Albright and Langen's text is unity, support, coherence, and then they focus on introduction and or conclusion. So, and you have, I'm trying to sit here and remember how many questions. Let me look in there. I'll open up the quiz real quick and double check it. You have 12 questions is what you have. And so you have to have access to the textbook. That's why you need to take it at school where you've got good Wi-Fi. Don't try it on your phones. Take it at school, because it will actually ask you where's something in a certain paragraph, you know, what works in there. So you're having to actually deal with the stories. So it's not cheating. You actually have access to the book on the e-text while you're doing it. So that's just a heads up so that you'll do well. I'm not going to show you that question. That would be too nice. Okay. So let's go back in, though. We're going to go to page 380. Hey, Ree, I was just reminding them that you guys have a quiz tomorrow. You get to be first today. Let's see here. And this essay is called An Essay on the Importance of Teaching Failure, which sounds odd about teaching failure. But when you look at that title, you've got to think about what is it telling me about what's going to be done. Now, this is by Edward Berger. And let me tell you, what's going on here is he is a teacher, and he's writing for teachers about how kids don't know how to use failure to make things better for themselves, I guess, or they don't learn from their failures. That's the whole main point of this thing. So we're in the e-textbook, okay? Read. So it's very interesting. It's like, I don't know, when my kids were growing up here in Lubbock, they participated in LCAA, and everybody, didn't matter how you did at the end of the season, everybody got a trophy. So you didn't learn that you're going to fail at some things, and you learn to get a trophy. You get those participation trophies. And we kind of have that society because we don't want to hurt the psyche of little children, okay? And we've kind of carried that on into adulthood, that, everybody should get that participation grade, okay? So, I'm gonna read it to you, then you're going to answer the questions, and then we're gonna come back together and decide how well, if you got them right or wrong. If you failed on a question, you didn't, okay? So what can we conclude when undergraduates, bemoan, how did anyone ever come up with this stuff? Although the students might feel confused or bedazzled, there's one thing for certain. The instructor jumped over the requisite missteps that originally led to the discovery at hand. This type of intellectual revisionism often depicts weighty concepts and conclusions as slick and sanitized, and as a result, foreign and intangible. So what that says is when you go back and you look at the history of discovery in anything, they make it sound like it happens just like this, and there's no problems and you never fail. And what was it, one of my students yesterday said, was it Edison who said, you know, that you can fail 99% of the time, but you only succeed once. So most of the time you're gonna learn from your failures. My best example is when I was in junior high, that's what it was called all those years ago, and in girls' PE, and we had a good basketball team, so we were learning how to shoot with our opposite hand. So for me, it was the left hand. And our teacher said, you go bounce, bounce, step, step, and shoot. So I went home in my backyard on my little concrete pad with my basketball goal, and I practiced hours every day doing bounce, bounce, step, step, and shoot. And a lot of times I didn't make it, but the more I did, the more often I made it. So I kept learning from that experience. So you do tend to learn from failure. You get better. What is it? Practice makes perfect. So that's kind of what he's saying, is that when we don't show the effort it takes to achieve something, we're making it seem like you should be able to get it right the first time. In reality, every idea from every discipline is a human idea that comes from a natural, thoughtful, and ideally unending journey in which thinkers deeply understand the current state of knowledge, take a tiny step in a new direction, almost immediately hit a dead end, learn from that misstep, and through iteration, that's repetition, inevitably move forward. That recipe for success is not just the secret formula for original scholarly discovery, but also for wise, everyday thinking for the entire population. Hence, it is important to explicitly highlight how essential those dead ends and mistakes are. That is, to teach students the power of failure and how to fail effectively. Individuals need to embrace the realization that taking risk and failing are often the essential moves necessary to bring clarity, understanding, and innovation. By making a mistake, we are led to the pivotal question, why was that wrong? By answering this question, we are intentionally placing ourselves in a position to develop a new insight and to eventually succeed. But how do we foster such critical habit of mind in our students who are hardwired to avoid failure at all costs? Answer, just assess it. Give it a grade, how well you fail. For the last decade or so, I've put my students' grades where my mouth is. Instead of just touting the importance of failing, I now tell students that if they want to earn an A, they must fail regularly throughout the course of the semester, because 5% of their final grade is based on their quality of failure. It sounds like such an odd thing to do, doesn't it? Would such a scheme provoke a change in attitude? Absolutely. With this grading practice in place, students gleefully take more risk and energetically engage in discussions. And when a student, say Aaron, we all know Aaron, right, makes a mistake in class, he exclaims, oh, well, my quality of failure grade today is really high. The class laughs and then quickly moves to the serious next step, answering, why was that wrong? It's not enough to console an incorrect response with a nurturing, oh, Aaron, that's not quite right, but we still think you're the best. That's what we do with our little kids in their athletic competitions, right? Now, does anyone else have another guess? Instead, a mistake solicits either the enthusiastic yet honest response, congratulations, Aaron, that's wrong. Now, what lesson or insight is Aaron offering them? Or the class question, what do you think? Is Aaron correct? Either way, the students have to actively listen and then react, while Aaron sees his comment as an important element that allows the discussion to move forward. I often refer back again and again to someone's previous mistake to celebrate just how significant it was. If we foster an environment in our classrooms in which failing is a natural and necessary component in making progress, then we allow our students to release their own genius and share their authentic ideas, even if, or especially when, those ideas aren't quite polished or perfectly formed. After returning a graded assignment and reviewing the more challenging questions, I ask students to share their errors, and the class immediately comes to life. Everyone wants to show off their mistakes, as they now know they are offering valuable learning moments. What's more, in this receptive atmosphere, It's actually fun to reveal those promising gems of an idea that turned out to be counterfeit. More recently, I've asked my students to intentionally fail in the spirit of an industrial stress test. I now require my students to write a first draft of an essay very quickly and poorly, long before its due date, and then have the students use that lousy draft as a starting point for the hopefully lengthy, iterative process of revising and editing. When the work is due, they must submit not only their final version, but also append their penultimate draft, all marked up with their own red ink. This strategy assures that they will produce at least one intermediate draft before the final version. Not surprisingly, the quality of their work improved dramatically. When I consult with or lead workshops for faculty and administrators, they are drawn to this principle of intentionally promoting failure, which inevitably leads to the question, how do you assess it? How do you give it a grade? The first time I tried my 5% quality of failure, I had no idea how to grade it, but I practiced what I preached, taking a risk and being willing to fail in the noble cause of teaching students to think more effectively. I passionately believe that assessment concerns should never squelch any creative pedagogical experiment. Try it today and figure out how to measure it tomorrow. He's writing for other educators, okay? In the case of assessing quality of failure at the end of the semester, I ask my students to write a one-page reflective essay describing their productive failure in the course and how they have grown from those episodes, which might have occurred outside of class, including false starts and fruitful iterations. They conclude their essay by providing their own grade on how they have evolved through failure and mistakes, from 0, meaning I never failed or I learned nothing from failing, to 10, meaning I created and understood in profound new ways from my failed attempts. I read their narratives, reflect on their class participation and willingness to take risks, and then usually reward them the surprisingly honest and restrained grades they gave themselves. To date, I've never had a student complain about their quality of failure grade. To my skeptical colleagues who wonder if this grading scheme can be exploited as a loophole to reward unprepared students, I remind them that we should not create policies in the academy that police students. Instead, we should create policies that add pedagogical value and create educational opportunity. A lot of jargon from education in there. And with respect to my grading failure practice, I found no such abuse at the 3 institutions in which I have employed it, which are Williams College, the University of Colorado at Boulder, and Baylor University. On the contrary, if implemented correctly, you will see your students more engaged, more prepared, and more thoughtful in class discussions and in life. Beyond the subject matter contained in the 32 or 40 to 48 courses that typical undergraduates fleetingly encounter, our students' education centers about the most important creative feat of their lives, the creation of themselves. Creating a mind enlivened by curiosity and the intellectual audacity to take risk and create new ideas, a mind that sees a world of unlimited possibilities. So we as educators and scholars should constantly be asking ourselves, have I taught my students how to successfully fail? And if not, then what am I waiting for? So, and this is a heads up, you don't end an essay for me with questions. I'm just warning you, okay? This is a professional model to look at. They can do things that you guys are not supposed to do. Okay, so there's 10 questions after them. They cover unity, they cover support, they cover coherence, we'll get down there, and then they cover the introduction and the conclusion. I want you to do all 10. Just write your answer on a piece of scrap paper. I'm going to give you about 15 minutes to go back and do it, and we will, and we're going to share our answers. We're going to see if you get them right, if you fail, or wait, if you get them right or if you fail. And it's not, you know, that way. So, and while you're doing that, by the way, I didn't have the right answers. I don't have a textbook that is the instructor's. It says instructor's evaluation copy, but there's no answers in it. So I have to answer the questions just like everybody else. But I did them yesterday. So I'm going to switch over here. I need to scan some documents. Ooh, that's way too zoomed in. I don't use this often enough. So that you're not staring at an empty chair. I'll be right back. Take me about 3 or 4 minutes to do this. Looks like you're going to be our only one today. Okay, Reed? Oh, wait, nope, there's Caleb. So you need to be reading, the essay and answering the question. It begins on page 380. Yeah, it begins on 380 in the e-textbook, okay? I'm going to go copy some stuff. And if you guys wanna work together, that's fine. If you guys wanna work together at the school, that's okay. But don't expect one person to do all the work. Pair up with somebody.
Okay, we're good. I'll turn this back, but, okay. And what page was it? 380. 380.
Have you answered, are you working on the questions? Okay. Trying to check the time. Give you a couple more minutes. It looks like if you're talking, you're done, so we're gonna move over here to the wonderful setup where I'm standing over here so I can hear answers. And we're gonna go over the questions, okay? Oh, that was what I forgot to do. I'm gonna hurry and get stuff done. Here. That'll work. I just have to make sure I don't get all my documents, ungraded essays with graded essays mixed up. I don't wanna grade anything twice, if I can. Okay, so we're gonna be looking at question one, and I think with question one, I'm gonna go with Wellman Union. And I'm gonna read the question and then I'll ask one of the kids to tell me the answer, but I'm just letting Wellman Union know they're up, so they're paying attention, okay? That's a tricky one. What is the thesis of Berger's essay? If it is stated directly, locate the relevant sentence or sentences. If it is implied, state the thesis in your own words. So what do you think, Adrian, what do you think is it implied or is it stated directly?
Hello?
I can barely hear you, talk loud.
I think it is stated directly.
Okay, it says it's stated directly. I have to repeat what you say because they can't hear you, so this is the only way we can do it. All right, so where is it? Where did you find it?
I think it's the last sentence of paragraph 2.
That is a good answer. It's the last sentence of paragraph 2. Good job. All right, hey, way to go. Which reads, now remember it's the essay on the importance of teaching failure. And part of this thesis statement is seems like the opposite. Hence, it is important to explicitly highlight how essential those dead ends and mistakes are. That is, to teach students the power of failure and how to fail effectively. Good job, Adrian, okay? I don't have Morton right now. I have some, okay, I meant to say Hell Center. All those other towns begin to blur in my mind by this, no. Okay. Number 2 is going to go to Hell Center. Which statement would best serve as a topic sentence for paragraphs 5 and 6? Let's go with Michaela. What do you think? Okay, can you wave at me, Michaela? If I can see you? I see somebody pointing. Okay.
B.
Did you say B or C or D?
B.
B as in boy? Is that right? Put your thumbs up if it's right. Okay, good. B as in boy. She says, helping students celebrate effective failure helps them learn. Okay, so, out of curiosity, if you thought it was B, raise your hand. And you got to raise them so I can see them. Yesterday, Abernathy had their hands like this, so I couldn't see anything. Okay, it looks like a majority of them. So, 5 and 6. Let's see. And when students say, makes a mistake. Okay. And 6 talks about how we foster an environment. So what do y'all think? So we're saying B. Anybody else believe it's any of the others? I can't remember my answer. I'm going to agree with you, all right? Okay? That it is helping students celebrate effective failure helps them learn. Okay? That's one, we've been writing drafts in English for years before I ever read this essay. That's one of the things about a draft. When you get a draft in and you do something wrong and somebody says, hey, you need to correct this, you can celebrate your failure. It's much better to get it wrong in the draft than it is to wait till you turn the paper in. And Morton really appreciated that. On their summaries, I was out there when they were finishing up their summaries, or they were doing the drafts, and I was like, no, you got to do this and this. About every sentence has to start with the author tag. And they were like, every? I was like, yeah, do you know how many times I've said that? So, that's what's going on. All right, number 3 is going to go to either Reed or Caleb, whichever one of you wants to answer. Which statement would best serve as a topic sentence for paragraph 10? Okay, so I don't know. We'll go with Reed since he was in here when I read it, okay? Which one?
D.
You picked D, okay, which is by examining their successes in honest, reflective essays, students are able to demonstrate their growth. Anybody else think it's D? Raise your hands. Anybody else think D? Oh, that doesn't look too good on the screen, does it, Reed? Okay. How about, anybody think it's A, students are required to grade themselves on their quality of failure, and their grades are usually honest and correct? Anybody think it's A? Raise your hand. I'm seeing Wellman Union favors that. I'm not sure what you're doing in Health Center. Did anybody favor A? Oh, okay. How about B? Students are required to grade themselves on their quality of failure, but their grades are often inflated? B. Okay, Health Center, did you answer the question? I'm not seeing hands. Students are assigned to write a one-page reflective essay so they can fully understand the nature of failure? See? I see some hands going up on that one. Okay. Is that the one you said too? Okay, so let's talk about that one. Students are assigned to write, I'm going to talk about C right now, and why it is not right. So, you failed, but that's okay. Students are assigned to write a one-page reflective essay so they can fully understand the nature of failure. Wait, look at those last 5 words. Fully understand the nature of failure. Is that what they are learning? The nature of failure? This is failure as a whole. It's not their failures. It's not finding out what they made the mistakes in. It's the nature of failure. It's too broad, okay? And let's see, letter B, nobody picked it. Students are required to grade themselves on their quality of failure, but their grades are, see, look at how it says quality of failure in there, which is right. But it says, but their grades are often inflated. No, he says they're actually accurate, okay? D, why is it wrong? By examining their successes in honest, reflective essays. Are they examining their successes? No, they're examining their failures. That's what's wrong with D. It's A. Students are required to grade themselves on their quality of failure, and their grades are usually honest and correct. So if you got A, high five each other, whatever, okay? But, so what happens is sometimes when you're reading the question, half of it will be right, but the other half is wrong. So you've got to think about what's going on in the entire sentence, okay? All right, so now we go back to Wellman Union. Number 4, about support. Which statement best expresses the implied point in paragraph 2? Let's see, I used Adrian, so let's go with Odie, okay? What do you think, Odie?
I chose C.
You chose C. On 4, okay. Anybody else get C on 4? Wow. Morton raised her hand. Morton. Why do I keep calling you Morton? It's Health Center. Health Center says that. Wellman Union, are you agreeing with Odie over there? Haley's agreeing. Okay. All right. Well, let's just say, what do you guys think? What'd you get? You put C, Reed? How about you, Taylor? C? Okay. It's just easier to say C. Yeah, it's C. Good job. Okay. Students need to be taught how to fail because it is the key to true scholarly discovery. Think about it. Edison didn't create the light bulb the first time he did it. It took multiple times. It took combustion engines. Think about all of our failures in the space program, which is horrible because when you have a failure in the space program, people die. Okay? Or even when we're learning, developing airplanes. There's a lot of failures before you get those successes. Don't even want to talk about, Boeing's having problems meeting their demands for their new planes because there's something wrong with them, and they've already had, the 737s had all those accidents, so yeah, it makes me not want to fly. But let's see, only deep thinkers are able to understand how to fail effectively? No, you have to be a deep thinker. Most people, have you ever failed? Shoot, yeah. The reason I took Spanish my sophomore year of college, pass-fail, the second year of it, was because I didn't want to have to study. Okay, and I'm going to tell you right out. I knew the person in front of me in that huge monster final exam had to know more than I did, because I didn't study at all. And I got a pass in that class, or I would have failed it if I hadn't done that. Teachers need to introduce students to the secret formula that leads to success. Secret formula? No. Good ideas go through numerous iterations, but always last the test of time. There's nothing about the test of time in there. Good ideas do go through numerous iterations. All you have to do to understand the first part of that is how often do they come up with, when they're beta testing games and they do updates on a game, just got an update on my phone last night, more security. So so that iPhone can keep track of what I'm doing. All right, now we go over to Health Center. Why does the author ask students to intentionally fail? Let's see. Let's go with Emily over at Health Center on 5. What'd you get? A, B, C, or D?
We got D.
We got D, okay. Let's see. And D, let's see, anybody else say D? Okay, come on, Health Center, raise your hands. I'm assuming you're all gonna have the same answer. Okay, Woman Unions, Haley, so what'd you guys get? D? Caleb? Yeah, you're gonna shake your head yes every time because you're the last person I'm asking. Yeah, I'm gonna ask you on the next one, you better be prepared. So D says he wants students to free themselves from the need to be perfect all the time so they're more open to learning. One of the experiences I've had is that as a college teacher, when you get, and you do a lot of dual credit, students who tend to be in dual credit tend to be the higher achievers in school, and they're not used to making less than A's on everything. And that sophomore class, you know, they do, I don't know, 15 or 16 study guides, and they want and I tell them, I cannot, I bet the class have 94 kids, and I said, I cannot tell you why you got your answer wrong. I don't have enough time in my life to do that for 94 times 15, that's how many things I have to grade, and they all have at least 10 or more questions on it. So, but they're so worried, they don't want to know why they got it wrong, they just want to know the perfect answer. And how do you tell them? Well, you used one word in there that made your answer not quite right. You know, and so, but they tend to want to be perfect, and that's what you get. And I'm, you know, good heavens, in writing, nobody's perfect in writing, okay? So we come up to 6, okay, it's going to be Caleb's question. Which of the following best defines the author's phrase, quality of failure? What do you think, Caleb?
I really didn't get the 6, but I'll say B.
You say A? A student's ability to accept a failing grade?
I said D.
Oh, you said D, I can't. Okay, I'm getting all of my ears are going away. I'm losing all that power there. A student's ability to fix his or her mistakes. Okay. So anybody else think A? Nobody thinks A? How about B? A student's ability to learn from a failing grade? Okay. How about C? A student's ability to take academic risks? And then D, a student's ability to fix his or her mistakes. It's not about fixing your mistakes, it's about learning from your mistakes. It's B, okay? Think about it. Your ability to, and the problem is that they said failing grade there. I think if they said from a student's ability to learn from a mistake would make it.
I think the grade tripped me up, honestly.
Yeah, well, and then my mind, that's a bad question because it says failing grade. Because when he's talking about doing grading, you know, when you're talking about in-class discussions and writing that draft, you know, he's not giving a failing grade on the draft, you know. I don't give failing grades on drafts. You did a draft, that's what's required. You know, if somebody tells you what's wrong on it, you should fix it, okay? So we're back to Wellman Union. Berger uses time order as his primary means of organization. I'm checking the time. All right, I'm hung up on Morton for some reason today. Wellman Union, I'm going to go ahead and give the answers because there's only a couple minutes left. He uses time order as his primary means of organization in this essay. So I'm going to just give you some examples. The word hence, that means, you know, now that we're doing this. In paragraph 4, it was for the last decade. There's a time order. You don't always have to go with first, second, third, another. You can actually use actual time things, okay? I also used more recently. That implies currently. And then at the very end of the essay in paragraph 10, it says, at the end of the semester. That is the time signal, okay? In 8, acknowledges an opposing point of view when he addresses a skeptical colleague. What sentence in that paragraph of 11 signals that change of direction? It's on the contrary, that's a change of direction, okay? I had somebody in my 9 a.m. Monday, Wednesday class who did a but however. They had a sentence that I graded, and it goes blah, 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 but however. If you say but, that's an exception. However is another exception, so you just negated your but. So don't ever use but and however together in a sentence. Number 9, Berger's introduction consists of 2 very brief paragraphs. Which statement best describes the style of his introduction? You know, this is a tough one. I actually thought it was two. I thought it was A and B. It presents an antidote. It's not really an antidote, the more I think about it, though. But it also presents a point of view about failure that is the opposite of the one that is developed in the essay. We program our kids to do it, so. 9 is a tough question for me. And then 10, which of these best describe the conclusion of essay on the importance of teaching failure? It leaves the reader with a thought-provoking idea. Those questions at the end. Again, you don't use questions. Don't ever end an essay for me with questions. Because he says, have I taught my students how to successfully fail? And if not, then what am I waiting for? So you do need to get something wrong. You know, I can remember taking a test in the 5th or 6th grade, 100 questions, and I forgot to answer one question and missed out on 100 by one question. So it made me much more careful when I read my answers, okay? So next Monday, we're going to talk about integrating quotes, paraphrasing, and we're also going to talk about the rough outline draft. I'm adding that in early because just as a heads up, none of the schools have class the week of Thanksgiving. I will be here. You guys can bring your rough outlines in, and I will be glad to go over them one-on-one. You can get, if you're still here in town, or, you know, Caleb lives here in town. Reed, you're not from here. You're from Georgia? Fort Worth, okay. So if you choose to leave, that's fine. I will count you absent, but you're not going to miss anything except an opportunity for some one-on-one, okay?
Oh, that's on that Tuesday?
That's on that Tuesday, because we only go to school Monday and Tuesday of that week, okay? So, you know, it's your choice. You do have to submit a rough outline, and I will make comments on them over that week.
Your conference is scheduled to end in 2 minutes.
So, you'll have a great weekend. If you're playing football, have fun. If you're not, have fun. But think about doing some research, and don't forget, you have to take the quiz over chapter 16. Make sure you've read over those 2 essays that start on page 370 in the ebook before you take them, and you'll have to have it up while you take the test, okay?